Hi, my name is Heidi Siefkas. I'm a four-time author, TEDx speaker, and adventurer, and I just had a fabulous conversation with Kim Sorrelle. You got to listen to it.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. You are going to be so happy you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I just spoke at the United Nations. I get to go to Dubai to go speak. I get to do so many fun things in life. But my favorite thing to do is to meet people. And I meet extraordinary people. It seems like everyone I meet is extraordinary. And today is super extraordinary, I would say. Heidi has done so many things in life, and I love her mission. I love what she's doing. I love that she takes people's stories of overcoming hard things and being victorious, triumphing at the end, and puts them together for us. And because she's done it too. I think it's even more special when you've been through something and you take your hurt, your pain, your whatever it is, and use it for good in the world. Use it to do something wonderful with, even though at the time you probably can't think of anything good that could come out of something so bad. But when you figure it out, it's wonderful to do. Heidi is the queen of that. She has done that over and over. And I'm just thrilled that she's here today. Heidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kim. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I know. I've so been looking forward to this for sure. So, okay, Heidi, I want people to get to know you. So, I'd like to start with you telling us about 8-year-old Heidi.
8-year-old Heidi.
8-year-old Heidi.
Um, 8-year-old Heidi, long brown hair in braids, probably running down a gravel driveway in rural Wisconsin. I grew up on a hobby farm. My name is Heidi because of the book and movie. We didn't have goats. We had sheep, but potato, potato. And I was an only child. My favorite playmates were my dog Caesar, who was a Saint Bernard. He pulled me in a dog sled as well as a pony cart. He was very large, as well as a white cat named Vesta. She had two different eyes, and her name was the Goddess of Fire. My father was a university professor, and my mother owned an antique store, which was at the hobby farm, and it was called the Little Red Shed because it was a red barn.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So, how fun to grow up on a hobby farm. And by the way, it's interesting. I had a Great Dane named Caesar.
Oh
I
my
know, isn't that so
goodness.
funny? Yeah, who was moose of a dog and could have pulled me around in anything as well. Just, big dogs. But I love a big dog.
Yeah, I prefer medium to large size dogs. Small dogs, I mean, I'd prefer a cat.
Well, small dogs are great for a purse,
Yeah,
or,
that's
I
true.
don't know, to cuddle on your lap. Or I know a lot of people that have small dogs and just love them. But there's something about a big dog. I don't know. It's just if you've never had one, there's just something really special about an animal that outweighs you and lives in your home with you. That I don't know what it is about it, but it just is. Saint Bernard, what a nice breed. Great Dane. I loved the Great Dane. It was just such a great breed. Okay, so would pull you around, and you lived in the country. So did you have neighbors and friends around?
The closest neighbor was about a half a mile away. Um, we lived in an apple orchard valley. Uh, the next door neighbors were farmers, whether that was soybeans or dairy cows. There were a few children in the valley, but most of them were older than I was. So that's why I said that my playmates were the pets.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started going to school, I made friends very easily. Um, I went to elementary school in a town called Galesville, Wisconsin, and we were about 30 class members. And when we got to middle school, we joined two other townships, Ettrick, Wisconsin, and Trempealeau, to make a larger class. So it was a very interesting setting, starting very intimate and then growing to a class of 100 when we turned teenagers.
That it is a big difference. And because it's a whole different dynamic. But how fun then also to meet new people, and that can be a lot of fun too. So it sounds like because of where you grew up, you probably had to use your imagination to create your own fun and be creative. And is that something that carried through with you? Like, are you still just imaginative and creative? And
Definitely, I've always been creative or an artist. Now I would say my gift is storytelling. And I think that stems from bedtime stories. My father was a theater and speech professor, so there was always plays, musicals, and the appreciation of the finer things. My mother is a musician. She was my piano teacher, and that inspired me to become a singer. I now reside in Nashville, which they blend both the music and the storytelling in one. I can't say that I am a musician nowadays, but I definitely appreciate it. And storytelling I do in my books, in my professional public speaking, as well as professionally. I'm a brand storyteller for businesses.
yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. I love that. And that's a gift, I believe, or certainly something that not everybody can do is be a great storyteller. So I love a great storyteller. So when you were a kid or in high school, whatever age, did you know what you wanted to do, or did you have dreams of what you wanted to be when you grew up, as they say?
So the first dream, I thought I wanted to be an international architect. And I had a picture of the Eiffel Tower. So I knew I was going to be going internationally. However, I didn't think really what an architect did. I thought they drew buildings, but that wasn't my aptitude, drawing nor necessarily probably mathematics. But in high school, I did excel at science. And so I said, well, why not become a doctor and a bilingual doctor? So I went to UW-Madison and I studied abroad in Spain for 2 of the 4 years. I actually graduated from Madison while being in Madrid, uh, quite a quinky dink. I became bilingual, but I didn't become a doctor. I realized by living those 2 years in Europe, a different way of life, that the life is lived more outside of the home. And I thought, do I want to spend my 30s in a library studying medicine and then the rest of my career, well, helping people, but surrounded by sick people? And I said, no, I have these gifts. Now, by learning my second language, now I can play with words even more aggressively. And I said, I just need to take my linguistic ability from that experience and translate it into something back in the States. And I first dabbled in teaching. I was a high school Spanish teacher as well as English as a foreign language. And the demographics weren't what I wanted to surround myself with. I wanted to be in a classroom without walls. I call myself an educator uh, without walls. And I've translated that linguistic ability into writing books, publicly speaking, and working in marketing and PR, which gives me a multitude of abilities to tell stories about products, customers, partners, and spin.
Yeah, so fun. That's so fun. Yeah, so but life threw a couple curveballs your way as you were figuring all this out. You want to talk about that?
Um, yeah, there is one thing that is for certain, and it's that life can change in an instant. And my first curveball was when I was in my early 30s. I was living in South Florida, a high-powered travel industry executive, married, a homeowner, a wonderful circle of friends and family, and my life changed by taking out the trash. I turned the corner, throwing out the last night's pizza box, and a 1,000-pound tree limb from 30 feet in the air struck me, leaving me unconscious. I awoke 5 days later in an ICU, and I found out from the doctors who put the pieces of the puzzle uh, together for me that I had broken my neck and that I was going to undergo neurosurgery and have a very lengthy recovery time. As you can see, I am fully mobile, but the ripple effect of that tree was on every aspect of my life. In one fell swoop, I lost my health, my marriage, and my career. And I call that my when all balls drop moment.
Yeah, what a thing to have happen because I like numbers. You know, you were wild about math. I like numbers. And so I always kind of think of the odds. Like, what are the possible odds that at that particular second in time, you were in that particular place when right then that extremely heavy branch from very up high fell on you. It is amazing you're alive.
It is it is a miracle that I'm alive. And although the odds are slim to none, I was in the right place at the right time because that tree inspired in me a different lifestyle, a mantra to live by. And I learned a lesson that most people don't learn until much later in life. And I am so grateful for that incident on a normal fall day. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I was just going for a walk. And what's what's super ironic is that my husband was in the house and he didn't know any of this happened. So when he called me an hour later and a doctor picked up the phone in an ICU unit, he was kind of wondering, who is this guy? And I was
Oh,
like, yeah.
oh my
So
word. So an ambulance came and got
yeah,
you, and
uh-huh.
he had no idea. And
He
they
was
did
watching he was watching the Patriots game. So I mean, you know,
fully engrossed.
football, yes, fully engrossed. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. That had to be so startling to then have the doctor pick up the phone while you're in ICU. Wow.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I do thank these lifelines. So
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. Because you wonder what he would have thought or what he would have done, or hopefully maybe eventually a neighbor would come over and say, "Hey, how's she doing?" or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But that did end up, and which happens all too often when there's a health crisis with a child or with a spouse, where the marriage seems to either get much stronger or crumbles. And yours unfortunately didn't last. But maybe you don't think that's so unfortunate anymore because of where you are and things that you've done. But then, so how long was that recovery?
it was about a year, and I was in an immobilization brace from my chin down to my belly button and around the back. I kind of looked like one of those stormtroopers in Star Wars. I called it my cage because it was part protector, part prison. I could not shower, so I had to be sponge washed, bathed. Um, and I was unable to return to my home. So I recovered at my mother's home, and the living room became my recovery suite.
Mm. Wow. So in Wisconsin, was that?
No, actually, the accident happened in upstate New York because my husband at the time was studying at the Culinary Institute of America. And so we decided that I would continue with my career and the home in South Florida, and he was going to concentrate on his studies. and we had a nice apartment for him there, and I was working remotely that week, and lo and behold, my life changed. But the marriage was not the right long-term relationship for me. I found out that he had been living a double life and unfaithful, and I didn't make the decision to end the marriage until after I was fully healthy.
Mm,
Um, because I needed to prioritize the things that I was dealing with, health, marriage, and career in that order, almost like a triage unit. So I couldn't deal about the marriage until I was healthy enough to deal with it. Then I dealt with the marriage, and then I dealt with the career.
yeah, wow. Oh my gosh, what a thing to go through. Holy cow. And you said you came up with your mantra, which is fantastic. Talk about that.
Yes. So a lot of times when you go through something challenging, painful, you have this epiphany, but then it's easy to fall into old habits. So I said, I cannot forget this lesson. And I incorporated the things that I had control over, which were that I could be in the moment whenever, whatever's happening. And I could also flip the script and find the upside in any situation that is presented to me. And I said, I needed just one or two words to incorporate that and share it with everybody that I know. And that mantra is look up, which is two powerful words. It's a mindfulness tool, it's a life tool, and it reminds us of those two things that we can control because those curveballs are going to come sometimes more than once.
Right, right. Yeah, because they certainly came your way more than once.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So then you were in Hawaii, right? Were you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So full blown life catastrophe. Could have rebuilt the former life, but I decided it wasn't serving me. So I said, why not architect? There we come back to that dream as a kid. So I architected a new life. And that life was going to be with someone else. It was going to have a different set of priorities. And so I met the love of my life in South Florida. His name was Brian Treptow, and he was a pilot. And I met him not on an online dating site, but I'm not sure if it was a Groupon or a Living Social, but I purchased a reduced scenic flight and helicopter lesson over Miami. And he ended up being the flight instructor, and we were together from flight until when Brian passed away. Um, we were together for 12 years, and we lived in South Florida, Alaska, on both Kauai and Maui. During our relationship, I had written 3 books. I had done a TEDx talk. He was someone that made me a better person, and he believed in me when I didn't think I could do it.
Mm, wow. Wow. Yeah. And it's so sad because you found the one. You found the man that obviously just supported your dreams and supported you and that you just adored. And he died way, 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 way too young. How old was he?
He was 47, and he was a medevac pilot in Maui. He was called on a night mission to save someone else's life from the Big Island and transfer that person from the Big Island to the trauma hospital in Honolulu. And unfortunately, the plane with the 2 other crew members crashed into the Pacific. And so it was tragic. It was abrupt. He had been sleeping in the bed that evening before he was called to duty. I received the phone call at 5 a.m. I still remember it being a Friday morning and that I was working remotely for a company based in Denver. I think my first call was to them to say I wouldn't be showing up for the meeting. I was still very hopeful that if anyone could make it out of a plane crash, it would be Brian because he was a scuba diver, a sailor, very adventurous. I thought he was going to be riding a humpback whale back to, or a dolphin back to shore. But in time, they pulled up the plane and did a very thorough investigation as the NTSB does. And yeah, um, that curveball really sucked.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So hard. And in an instant. So first you get a phone call that there's been a plane crash, but you don't know anything beyond that. Then it's a waiting game. So how long between that phone call and another phone call, or how did you know?
I think the medevac team and the extensive family members, we had these daily Zoom calls to keep us abreast as to the search and rescue mission. And then when they said, I didn't know the terminology of all of this before, but there's a time when they're looking for the bodies, and then there's a time that are alive, or, then there's a time that they switch into the other mode, and we're going to just get the equipment, and we're assuming we'll find bodies, but that they have already passed. And I
Mm.
didn't understand all of that. I wish that someone would have been a little bit more forthcoming about this. I did have one of his nurse colleagues say, I've seen this happen before, Heidi, and he's probably not coming back.
Mm. Wow.
And they eventually pulled, the accident happened on December 15th. They didn't really get the bodies or planes up until early January.
Ah.
And then the need to um, go through autopsies and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it seems stupid that they need to do an autopsy on someone who died in a plane crash, but they needed to do all of the toxicology and all that kind of stuff to soup to nuts, dot I's and cross T's.
Sure.
But it was very, 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 very painful. It's like rubbing salt and vinegar and whatever else would hurt a wound just over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. That is a long time to not know, to not know. And
Yeah.
so I can't imagine having to function in day-to-day life. It seems like it would be very consuming and wondering, is it going to be in the next hour? Is it tomorrow I'm going to hear? When am I going to hear? And to try to be tracking with it and not be getting news had to be so painful, so difficult, on top of the fear that you've just lost the man of your dreams. And then it just adds layer after layer after layer after layer of difficult hardship.
It's been nearly 3 years and it hurts every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine. Yeah. It's been 16 and a half years. I was 47 when my husband died, actually. So interesting that your husband was 47. And it's been over 16 years. And I can tell you that it gets a little bit better, but I still cry when I talk about him sometimes or often. But I like to talk about him. And I think that's one thing when people are grieving that people are afraid to mention your person to you because they think they're going to make you sad, or whatever. But the opposite is true. Like, we want to tell stories about our people. We want our people to be remembered, and we want people to ask about, so what was he like, or whatever. It's okay, everybody, to ask those questions. Do you feel like that?
Yes. And one of my friends here in Nashville, I hold him and our friendship so dear because he was one of the first people that I told him, because I think he asked if I was dating someone or if I was single,
Mhm.
trying to put the puzzle, the full picture of who is Heidi, who's coming to watch me at my live music gig. And he asked what was his name. And that is just so heartfelt.
Mhm. Mhm.
Instead of just, giving me a hug and pushing it under the rug, which is what most people say, I'm sorry, my condolences, and then they don't ask anything else. What was
Mhm.
he like? What did he look like? Um, what did he like to do?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a whole different story when you meet somebody who cares deeply. I mean, really, it's a sign of just truly caring and wanting to know. So tell me, what was he like?
He was the epitome of look up because he was always in the moment. That made him a good pilot. It made him a good sailor. It made him a great surfer, also a great partner because he would make sure that we didn't forget while adulting to still play.
Mm.
And he would find the upside in any situation. He was the master of plan B, okay, plan C, plan D. He had curly hair, blue eyes, a contagious laugh, and was very high energy. Most people remember him for being very skinny, and the amount of food that he consumed. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Wow, he sounds like a great guy and a great partner and a lot of fun. And so, the way I was married for almost 29 years. I got married pretty young, and I was married for a month shy of 29 years. And the way I've always looked at it is my husband was tall, dark, handsome, and wonderful. And we had a great marriage. And I just feel like I had it better than a lot of people have it their entire lifetime. And it sounds like you too, in your 12 years, that kind of the same situation, that you had it pretty darn good in those 12 years.
I consider myself very lucky to have had 12 years of true love,
Mm,
unconditional.
yeah, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And there is something very special. So just so special about that. You see couples that you're like, holy cow, they belong together, you
Yeah,
know, and I don't know what the magic is. I know that when I met my husband, and I wonder if you felt like this when you met Brian, but when I met my husband, it's like there was a switch that turned on in me that I was like, holy cow, I can't wait to marry this guy. And I just met him. And 10 days after I met him, I asked him to marry me, and he said yes. So there was just something that I was like, this is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. Was it like that? With must have been when you went on that
it
flight.
was it was instantaneous. My girlfriend Daniela, she and I have birthdays around the same time of year, and so we both did the scenic helicopter flight. And she already noticed the sparks flying while we were there, and she was wondering if I should invite him out to lunch because we were going to lunch afterwards. now that I know his appetite, I probably should have, but I gave him my business card. And later that evening, he called me and I was in between holiday parties. And I said, well, why don't I meet you out for a drink? And I could, buy you a drink to say thank you for, the experience. He was out with some other students and we hit it off. I invited him to the second holiday party, and the rest is history. We fell in love on the dance floor.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I love that story. It's so beautiful. It's such a great love story. And I'm so sorry that it ended way too soon because I'm sure you would have had a lot of great years more had the crash not happened. So yeah, so look up.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so you've had to do that a lot in life, so it wasn't just your accident that was tragic, but I'm sure you would trade that any day of the week for Brian's accident. And yeah.
I am so grateful for the tree because it prepared me for Brian's passing.
Mm,
It didn't make it so that I didn't drop to my knees and need to force a pause on my entire life, but it made me capable of eventually picking myself up
mm.
and not without the help of others.
Wow. 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 So yeah, again, I'm so sorry. So I holy cow, what a thing to go through, and the time and everything else just so difficult. So it is when you were writing books, were you were already writing people's stories? You were writing stories of resilience and when when Brian passed away, or tell me about your writing
So
journey.
all my writing is nonfiction because truth is stranger than fiction. And Hollywood can't make stuff up this good. I mean, my story is unbelievable. If it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe it. So I started writing my own story because that's what I know best. So my first three books are basically soup to nuts, tragedy to triumph about the tree, then recreating a life full of adventure. And then I love to travel. So my third book is about my travels to Cuba. And during all of this sharing of my story and being vulnerable with the world, people shared their stories with me. And I was seeing this common thread. And so I said, they're all kind of leaning into this concept of the power of perspective and finding a silver lining. So look up may be bigger than just my story. It may encapsulate the essence of humanity and how we continue on, that we can persevere and we can tap into our inner resilience. So I thought I should write Chicken Soup for the Soul, but in lookup format and from people from all walks of life from around the globe. In 2022, that was my mission, and I put it out to the world. It I found all the contributors through personal connections or connections of connections. I kind of say it's kind of like the Kevin Bacon effect, is how this organically came about. And I had 15 of the chapters done by December when Brian passed. And I had to take a year-long break to deal with the grieving. I was also taking care of my father, who is now 90 years young. Uh, Brian was helping me with that in Maui. And so I needed to make my next decision to where was I going to take my father, where I had a support system. And that ended up to be Nashville, Tennessee. So I was dealing with grief, elderly parent, a move across country, and trying to keep a content strategist job as well. So there was no room for the book, nor was there any inkling that I was ready to talk about other people's story. I was still living mine.
Mhm.
However, in early 2024, I said, it's time to restart the book. And I came back to look up global stories of resilience with more gusto, more fervor. I found this investigative journalist side of me, and I found probably another 7 stories that were so powerful, multifaceted, and very difficult to get. One of which was a story of the Maui fire. I
Mhm.
knew that I needed a story from the island where I started the book, but
Mhm.
I wasn't on the island when the fire took place. And people need time to digest what has happened to them until they're ready to share. And I've found it's about 2 years. So, about 2 years after the fire, I approached my connections and I finally found someone who is willing to tell that story. So, that's just one story of a real life Shiro and hero because it was a family in Lahaina. But I also tapped into connections in Cuba. And I have just a powerful mother daughter story of immigrating to the United States from Cuba, but not by plane, by every mode possible and over the Central America, um,
Mhm.
Mexico route. So I got stories that were basically almost movie pictures themselves. And I just feel very blessed that they trusted me with their stories and they allowed me to pen them.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Holy cow. So every story, I mean, my word, the Maui fire, gigantic. And to live through that and the devastation and living through the devastation and wondering where your people are. I mean, that's a huge story. The story of leaving Cuba for a better life, for a better life for your child, for your daughter. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been a lot of places in the world that I would do anything I could to get to a place like the United States with my family, knowing that it'd be safer and so much better life. And totally understand people who do that and go through so much to come here because there are places in this world you would never want to live and you wouldn't want anyone to have to live. They're just, it's just not right. So I totally get that. And what a story that has to be. And there's story after story after story. And so how interesting to find the people and then share their stories. I'm curious, what has doing that? Do you think it's helped your grief? What has it done for you personally?
A lot of people thought I was doing the book for Brian. And um, in essence, I was doing it for all the contributors to the book because it's their stories that I'm sharing. I'm just the deliverer of those stories with my storytelling ability. I The spark for the book was, of course, my tree accident, and that I continued the book for Brian and for myself and for the contributors. It has helped me realize that lookup really works.
Mm,
And Brian's passing was a very hard test because at first I didn't find an upside. And there is no upside to losing someone. But just like you said, that you had a very good long run with the love of your life. And I have found love of 12 years. And it's not that he's left me, because I tell people your DNA is a double helix. Mine is now a triple helix. I have another strand that's with me all the time. Um, Little things I do that he taught me that I'll do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by doing this and doing it with people from different countries, religions, ages, different ailments, different situations, it kind of leveled the playing field. And that we are all so similar. We are, we sometimes focus on the differences, but we are truly all one. And the commonality is we're all going to struggle at some point in time. And each one of these stories gives us a little bit of hope. If you read some of these stories, you're like, I don't think I could overcome that. But these people have. And it gives you, you know, your superhero power that someone else has done it before you.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is as soon as I said, okay, the book is complete, sent it off to the editor, then to print, another woman submitted a powerful story. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'd love to include this, but it was too late for that, for this book. So since then, there's more and more people that have been reaching out to me. So I don't know if it's going to be another book, but I am toying with the idea of starting a podcast to share stories in this manner. So maybe starting with some who have already shared their story in the lookup book, and then for new stories to continue the inspiration and cheerleading for all of us.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You should start a podcast. If you need any help with that, I'd be happy to help you out. But I think it's so important to hear other people's stories. And I love that you said the way you said it, that it levels the playing field. To me, people are people all over the world, and we have so much more in common than we have different. And we all feel pain. We go through grief. We go through hard times. We go through happy times. We're all living life just in a different culture. Maybe you're in a different country, in a different city, in a different climate, whatever it happens to be. But people are people, and pain is pain. And it's not like, well, if you live in this country, it's easy to lose your husband, but if you live in this one, it's going to be painful. No, it's painful. Pain is pain. And I always find so much hope in hearing somebody's story and seeing that they're still breathing, that they're getting through it somehow. I don't like the term get over it. Like I don't like that. There's some people that use that and say, well, you got to get over it at some point. Well, you don't ever get over it. But the way I feel about it is it's like a grief, pain, grief of however it comes to you, whether it's the death of somebody or the loss of a relationship or whatever it is, it can be this huge, heavy blanket that is over the top of you. And just breathing is all you can do for a while. Like that's triumph, just to breathe. But little by little, if you can get out from underneath that blanket of grief, and get on top of it, that's when you know that your healing is really happening for you. And so it's not a matter of getting over it. Please don't ever tell anybody out there. Nobody tell anybody to get over it, because you don't. But if you can get on top of it, like that's triumph. And that's what gives other people hope to go, wow, they went through that and that's how they are. And they're doing what with it? They're writing books about other people's stories. Like, you got to be kidding me. Holy cow, all this that Heidi's been through, and look at what she's doing. Because these stories change lives. That not only the person that it happened to, but the people that read the stories, it can't help but touch your life. It can't help but change your life. And and give you hope. Hope is a big deal. We need hope. We need to know that if you watch the news channels all day and get depressed, that's not the world. That's not really people. That's whatever it is. And there might be stuff going on, but that's not who we are. And there is so much hope, and there's so much more good than there is not good. And so, man, Heidi, go you. I appreciate so much what you're doing. And I know that it is a blessing to anybody who reads it, anyone who meets you, anyone who knows you. You're doing it and helping people. So it's like you never want to go through that. Like if you had a choice, that's what I always say. If I had a choice, my husband would be alive. We'd still be living the thing. Right now, we'd be empty nesters. We'd be running around the house naked. I don't know, whatever it is, empty nesters do. But we'd be ready for whatever we'd be doing. We'd be having fun. And but I don't have that choice. I can't do that. That can't change. So now my choice is, how am I going to live? How am I going to live? How am I going to love? Am I going to fully embrace life? And so that's what I choose to do is, man, I'm taking every bit of life there is and I'm living it, and choosing to be happy and choosing to find joy in things. And so, there are those things. You started out with that early on. You said, there's choices you don't make, the things you don't have any control over, but the things that you can control, you get to control. So you get to decide, how are you going to deal with things? How are you going to live tomorrow and today and look at the future? So go you. I mean, it's not easy, but you're doing it, and it's fresh. You think 3 years, almost 3 years, that's really not that long. It really isn't that long. And so many of those wounds, like a skin wound that takes time to heal. I mean, wounds take time to heal, and you still have the scar. You don't get rid of the scar, but eventually the wound closes and things get better, even though you think they're never going to get better. How can they possibly be better again? But
Well, what's funny is just last week, I did a leadership conference for business owners, and it was how to be a resilient leader. And it was the first time that I had spoken about Brian at length, and even had a picture of him and myself on the screen. Nobody in the room, I thought, knew Brian. After I spoke, I was signing books. Some gentleman came up with his phone and showed me a picture of him and his wife in front of Brian's helicopter, where he and his wife had taken a scenic flight around the island of Kauai with Brian. And I was like, you what? So the connections in this world are so far, so vast, and some of them are invisible, was my takeaway. How could Brian just pepper into that situation? Well, he flew in it. So
yes, yeah, I love that. I love that. That had to be such a special moment, because you're like, yes, I can talk about him, but somebody who actually met him knows that what I'm saying is true.
it's true.
Can't understate it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can't be overstated, I guess is what I meant to say. But yes, yeah. Oh, how cool. That is so cool. I'm glad you had that experience. You're probably gonna have a lot of those experiences in life.
Brian was a collector of friends, and and now those friends are my friends.
That's so awesome. That is so great. Yeah. So you're doing it. You're writing. You're in Nashville. You're in the place of great music. Oh my gosh, I think people think of Nashville. If you've never been to Nashville, I'm telling you, one of the greatest cities in our country, one of the greatest cities in the world. I love Nashville, Tennessee. People are friendly. It's a very friendly place to go. It's an easy place to go visit, and there's so much to do. and the music is unbelievable. There's a street like downtown that is honky tonk after honky tonk, and there's live music in all of them, and any one of them could be the next Taylor Swift. I mean, the talent is through the roof. Like there's, you want to see good music, you go to Nashville, you can see good music really for free, because just walk into any bar
Any bro
on the
any
street.
Broadway honky tonk has
Yeah,
excellent musicians from morning until bar closes.
yeah. Good point. Yeah, it's not just, a couple hours at night. It is all day long, and yeah, and great places like the Listening Room and Bluebird, and there's just some incredible places to go, and lots in Franklin, Tennessee. I love Franklin, little town next to Nashville. That's so cool, like Mayberry RFD kind of place. I just love it there.
It's
And
like you're
great.
walking through a postcard in Franklin.
It is. It is. It's like walking through a postcard. Absolutely. Just downtown with, like one story, two-story downtowns, and not like skyscraper kind of downtown, and shops and restaurants, great food and great people. And, it's really people that make a place. And so Nashville, people are just, it's just a friendly, wonderful place to go. So how did you pick Nashville when you're looking at the world and you're going, well, where could I live?
I was really interested in a place that I could take my father and have some support. So, two family friends have lived in Nashville since they retired, and they have known me my entire life. They've known my father 50 years. And I said, also, my uncle, my father's younger brother at 87, lives
Yes.
in southern Missouri. So I was like, Nashville would be close to my uncle. I have my two family friends here that could be emotional support. And it didn't, it doesn't snow much because I was dealing with someone who was in his late 80s, and any ice, snow, not good for mobilely impaired. So I came for my father's well-being, but the secret sauce is that actually it was for my well-being to be in such a creative mecca as Nashville. It's although sometimes listening to music after someone passes hurts,
Mhm.
eventually you'll find the right music, and music transports you to another place. It can heal. Um, and just being around the creativity here allowed me to go at my project with just, I turned the temperature up. I mean, I wasn't going after the one faceted story. I went for some that had the meat and potatoes.
Mm.
And Nashville has a blend of creative creativity, not only from music, but also writers, comedians. There is a wonderful symphony here. There's also a great TEDx community here. And I don't want to forget that Tennessee is very beautiful, and I'm an adventurer. So I have kayaked all the rivers around Nashville, hiked all the trails, and gone horseback riding near the Natchez Trace. It's just a beautiful place to experience in the honky tonks as well as outside in the great outdoors.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so you brought up two things that we need to talk about, TEDx and adventuring. And
Yes.
your TEDx talk is so good. And that's what it's all about, is about adventure. And
Yeah.
and sometimes people hear that word and think you got to bungee jump off a bridge, right? Or fall out of an airplane or whatever. But adventure can be so many different things. But it really changes your life. So talk about that. I'd love for you to talk about that.
So the same way that lookup can change your mental state wherever you are, our bodies crave interruption. And that interruption, I define it as adventure. And it doesn't have to be bungee jumping. It doesn't need to be climbing Mount Everest. It can be just doing something, an activity that is all consuming. And that activity could be physical, it could be mental, emotional, or all three. Just some examples of which learning a new sport. I always use stand-up paddleboarding because when you're trying not to fall off the board, there's nothing going through your mind. You're not thinking about what you have to get at the grocery store or what meeting is coming up at work. Also, a blind date after, you haven't dated for a while. You're only thinking about not spilling that glass of wine or that cup of coffee on your new blouse or shirt.
Mhm.
Singing karaoke when you wanted to hide in the back of the room is an adventure. And what happens is you get in the zone, just like a professional athlete. You get very heightened focus, you get increased energy from adrenaline, and by doing adventures, you get better at flipping your switch, your perspective shift when the you know what hits the fan in your real life. So I tell people to go out and do an adventure at least once a month, and you'll see how it'll change how you deal with the heavy stuff that shows up on your doorstep.
So good, so good. And yeah, and in your talk too, you say, it doesn't have to be some wild hike, or it doesn't, like you've already said, but it can be something like seeing your city in a different mode of transportation.
Yeah,
So instead of
do
just
it.
driving through your city, take the bus or a
Yeah.
freeway or a bike or whatever. Like it can be something so simple, but it is an adventure when it's something, it can be maybe a little beyond your comfort zone that pushes you a little bit to make a change, something different than you've done, and let that adrenaline flow and go and be comfortable with it. I think it's remarkable. I loved your talk. Everybody, you should listen to Heidi's talk, her TEDx talk. Very, very good. And it's so important to keep life in perspective that way. And because life should be an adventure, it doesn't have to be boring and humdrum. It can be exciting as you want it to be.
Well, we get into routines, and I even find myself getting on autopilot. And I've been a culprit of, driving to work or driving to the gym and not remembering how I got there. It's just because
Yeah.
my mind was doing multitasking Olympics.
Uh-huh. Yes,
So
exactly.
adventure and interruptions are necessary to get us off that hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, yeah, and have to focus on something else. Yes,
Yes.
I love that. I love the dating analogy because holy cow, if that's not an adventure at my age to date, I don't know what is. I don't know that it's the right kind of adventure. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is, but it is an adventure, there's no doubt. But yeah, so good, so good. How can people get in touch with you? What do you want?
Um, you can go to my website, HeidiSiefkas.com. You can find all my books in all the formats, digital, print, audio on Amazon, and on all social media. I'm Heidi Siefkas. Um, Please reach out. I'd love to inspire you with some of my adventure photos, my talks, my podcast, or my future podcast. And always remember, look up can be in your back pocket.
Mhm. Yeah. And you know what? That's a great name for a podcast. Look up. So
Yeah.
there you go. You already got the name. So you got to now you got to do the podcast. Yeah, and of course we'll have all that in the show notes. So I'm curious, is there like a piece of advice that somebody gave you through your life that you hang on to or that you give to people that is just a nugget of great wisdom?
I actually, in my first book, When All Balls Drop, I have a quote, and it's from a doctor that helped me during the recovery from the broken neck. And he said, your accident wasn't a life change. The life change will be the path that you choose because of your gained perspective. You will know what you want from life, perhaps leaving the pre-accident life behind totally.
Mm,
And that can be translated to whatever your accident is. So
wow.
don't forget the lesson that you learn from your when all balls drop moment.
I love that. That's so good. And you're going to come out a different person.
Yes, stronger. I mean, it's almost as if um, I'm on my TEDx talk. I talked about overcoming obstacles and evolving to your life 2.0. That
Mhm.
was before Brian passed. So now I'm at a different version. I'm not on life 2.0. I'm probably on 3.0 or 4.0, maybe 5.0 by now. But
Yeah.
that we have to realize that as human beings, we're going to evolve during our lifetime. We need to.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We need to. And give yourself permission to, and give other people permission to. And, I always, I kind of say it like this, like I'm on Kim number 7 or Kim number 9 or something.
I love it.
Because you evolve and change, and your views can change, and it's good, it's fine, it's a good thing to grow.
Nine lives are not only for cats.
That's right. There you go. That's right, exactly. That's so good. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for being here today. I so appreciate it.
Oh, I loved it. Sorry that I got a little emotional, but
Oh,
I'm being authentic and vulnerable, and that hopefully will give you permission to do that yourself.
100%. Yeah, you never have to apologize for being emotional, because I think you're human. I'm pretty sure. Like,
I'm not an AI clone yet.
no. Oh, well, thanks again so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Pass the episode along. Heidi is such an inspiration, and a great storyteller. And her books are all good. Buy them all. Give them as gifts to people. Send them. Amazon makes it so easy these days. You don't even have to go to the post office. Just order it, put your friend's address in it. What a beautiful thing to send a book in the mail. Beautiful gift. Somebody who's going through something that could use a little lift, reading some stories about resilience, about there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Send it to those people. And so thanks for joining us, and support Heidi any way that you can. And I just pray that until we see each other again, that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud.